Hello everyone and welcome to my channel in these encounters with beautiful and inspiring minds. Now please think of liking and subscribing so that you too can become part of this process of spreading ideas and truths that could bring us more beauty and more meaning. And also if you're interested in spreading your message out here, please write me and let's create these meaningful conversations and learn more about how we can do things differently. I always like to use this word, not better, differently. And today we meet again with Laura SPICER for the second part of our interview. Welcome, Laura. I'm so happy to have you again here as my guest.
Thank you.
So just to remind you, Laura is a speaking voice coach. Interesting, I have to clear my voice while I'm saying that. And an NLP consultant and trainer. And she specializes in teaching people to be more effective through the use of their speaking voice. So Laura, as I was mentioning to you earlier, I would like to share with you the experience that I had after our conversation last time. And I don't want to take too much of the time because I really want to spend time with you so you can really enrich our lives with your wisdom. But I would like to share some of this experience. Would you like to hear about it?
I really want to hear about it. Yes,
I want to share with you and our viewers this magic that happened to me after our last conversation, because I don't know how it impacted others, but our meeting the other day had a profound impact on me. And as I was mentioning to you in one of my messages, I even dreamt of you. And you know what you told me? That my voice got really beautiful. And so my unconscious mind, I think, confirmed to me that the message was received and that I heard it. And also there are a few keywords, Laura, that you mentioned during this conversation. And of course I did the editing, so I listened to our recording a few times. And you mentioned territory and the need to prepare it for landing. That kind of stayed with me. I really heard it. You also mentioned that learning is a process moving from the unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. And that also is something that really exploded something inside and actually affected everything else in my life. And you are a genius. And I never really had the opportunity to say that live to a genius. I'm grateful for that.
Oh, thank you for calling me a genius. I don't think my children would agree, but hey.
And there is one major discovery or revelation for me, which just dropped in and then changed everything. And even though about the voice, actually, the voice work, and even though I had a few techniques before, you know, we learn about that in NLP, in the training, the voice, you take it from here, you put it here, you reduce the volume, you make it a funny voice, you put it back in, you play with it. But somehow, for some reason, this time it was really life-changing experience, honestly. And I suspect that this is all your fault.
Sorry.
Well, we have to find someone to blame, right? And the discovery was how important the inner voice was in how I felt about certain things. So voice and feeling. And on how I plan my daily activities. And of course, the stress level, how I deal with it. And the way I used to function before was to feel somehow overwhelmed. I'm a very active person and I like to have plenty of things to do at the same time. And I love that. But on the other hand, I get very agitated and nervous sometimes about certain things. And so I've noticed that the inner voice that is helping me to plan sounded something like this. Okay, I'm a bit ashamed to say it out loud, but it's good to do it. You have to do this, and you have to do this, and you gotta do this, and you're gonna after that, you're gonna have to do this. Oh my God, you're not gonna have time to do this. Okay, which is indeed terrible. Okay. So that was the first awareness. And so I started to practice with this very soothing and calm and appealing voice that was telling me what I had to do, as if I was going to have some chocolate or this champagne ice cream that I love. And as if I was going to have the most wonderful experience. I even thought of how I do with the sound that I do when I enjoy something. And in the morning, I'm already thinking of my ice cream. And in the morning, upon waking up, what I do, I use this voice, sometimes loud, sometimes in my mind, telling me that I'm going to have an interview at 10 o'clock. And you're going to have this wonderful experience at noon with Laura Spicer. And at 1 o'clock, you're going to eat this wonderful meal with your daughter. And so that changed everything. And mostly, Laura, I asked myself, I thought to myself, geez, this is so easy. It's too easy. How come we don't do it more often? Or how come we don't do it at all when we have this tool, actually? And then coming back to the territory that I was mentioning earlier and preparing for landing, what I realized or thought of was that basically we need playfulness. I think what you really need in order to do this every day is to be playful, to dare to be playful and not to worry about whether it works or not. So to me, playfulness is one of the key for best landing on the territory. But you tell me what you think about all this.
Well, gosh, where to begin? First of all, thank you for the accolade that I'm a genius. Actually, the truth is, a lot of what I told you, I learned from Richard Bandler. I didn't invent the word territory, nor did I come up with what I call the learning model, that journey from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. I learned it from Dr. Bandler. And before this interview this morning, I treated myself to the first part of an interview that Dr. Bandler gave last night. And, you know, everything that comes from that man's mouth has been gold for me. And so those things really I can't take the credit for, other than that I heard them and I made use of them. And I incorporated them into my thinking and feeling so that when I'm working with somebody else, I can take the gold that I've gathered, and not only from Dr. Bandler, but a great deal from him, and share it on. Because like a wonderful virus, when we put good stuff into the world, it doesn't just land and stop. So, first of all, if any of your listeners haven't watched videos of Dr. Bandler or been on his trainings, honestly, it's one of the best things I ever did, if not the best thing. It changed my life so much. And it gave me some tools to play with. Now, you talk about a playground. I really agree. I want my whole life to be playful. Sometimes that's more challenging than others. But when you approach yourself with love and playfulness like an adventurer, you get to try stuff out. Now, you've tried out changing that inner voice and it made a massive difference. The next question to ask yourself is, well, apart from where else could that be useful, what else could I do with my inner voice? Because every voice is useful somewhere. I think we said that last time. There's no such thing as a wrong voice or a bad voice. True. It's just, is that voice the best possible one for the situation, the circumstance? Will it get me the best result? So talking to yourself in a magical voice and luring yourself into your day is beautiful. What else? What else? So, you know, yes, champagne and ice cream, but sometimes you're going to need something else.
Absolutely.
Maybe some determination.
Yeah.
Maybe today is a day where you've got to get some tasks done that no matter how much you tell yourself this is going to be fun, it's going to be magical, maybe you won't even believe it because it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
What about if it's a really tough thing you've got to do? Do you have a really determined voice that helps you to do things that are hard and gets you to do them and encourages you and goes, go on, one more step, one more step.
You can do it.
Because you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to feel so good when you've done it. So it is about what you say. It's also about how you say it. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Sometimes an angry voice will be the best one.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a sympathetic voice. Sometimes an excited voice. Sometimes an inspired voice. You know, the list goes on and on. And if you're playful and you try out different voices in your head, you begin to have a catalogue of possibilities of how to motivate yourself so that you can do more than you ever thought you could before. And to me, that's very exciting. So
Yeah.
I have an excited voice in my head that goes, woo. So you've got going on already. And it does something great for you. What about ooh? Ah. All these sounds, when you make them inside your head, get a particular neurological response and change your chemistry to make it easier to do the things that you need to do, so that you get them done more efficiently and with more pleasure, with more fun, and like you, with more playfulness, if you like that. I do. You know, when you watch children learning, young children, they're not doing it through pain. They're learning through curiosity, fun, playfulness. And, you know, to me, that is a great learning state. I love curious, fun, playful. I use it a lot. It's not the only tool in the toolkit. Sometimes I need to be a serious grown-up. But you know what? My sense of humor is right there for me. So while I'm being serious, authoritative, forceful, inside my head, I'm probably laughing at myself, going, ooh, are you doing a good enough job yet? Hey, you could do that even more seriously. Because whatever it is that you want to achieve, knowing that it is possible if you can just find the way to do it. One of the things Richard was talking about this morning is how neuro-linguistic programming was built in the first place. And it was built by modeling excellence. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we can do, working with the voice and everything else, is once we've got past the unconscious incompetence stage and we realize that we don't know how to do that, then really all we need is to find somebody who's really good at doing it. And then we can copy them. We can ask them questions. So for us, particularly in lockdown, we have the amazing resource, which is YouTube. And one of the things I love to do is to listen to 5 minutes of different TED Talks to hear the voices. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes there may be a voice I haven't even thought of, but I can hear the effect it has on me. Mm-hmm. You know, your auditory cortex in your brain and your kinesthetic cortex, your feelings and what you hear are very closely interlinked. In fact, there's an overlap, in some cases of as much as 40%. What you hear affects your feelings. And, you know, if you listen to music, you know this. You know, there are some tracks which you listen to and they're the perfect ones to get you to have a fun day. I used to have tracks that I listened to when I went out on the town in the evening to get me ready to have some fun. And they're not the same tracks I'd listen to when I wanted to sit back and relax. That's obvious. I mean, we know that music affects us. Yeah. But so does your voice. So when you listen to the different TED Talks and notice the feelings that you get, then you can get a plan together for the ones you want to make inside here. to have the same effect. Find someone who does it well and copy them.
Yeah.
It's super easy.
Yeah. I've listened a lot to, I don't know if you've heard of him, Alan Watts. Does he tell you anything?
Of course.
Yeah, the philosopher.
He's a funny one, talking about the voice.
And he has such a lovely voice and the laughter. And everybody gets charmed by his voice and basically everything he says. Of course, it's so true and it's so powerful what he says. But there's the voice that has this extraordinary impact on the listeners.
Well, he has a beautiful English voice.
Yeah.
And it's really pretty iconic.
Yes, yes. So I've listened to him, and actually I did some of these NLP techniques, trying to tune into his own neurology and get whatever I can get that helps me. I cannot become him, and I don't want that neither. But I can get some tunes and some of that, not only the voice, but also the way he's structuring his speech, because I like the way he's bringing the arguments, and it's beautiful. So
it's very interesting the way he does it, because it sounds often like it's really muddled. And I often listen to him and think, that doesn't follow. He'll say, because of this, it's this. And I go, no. But the way he loops it back so that by the end, something wonderful has happened is very clever. It's very clever.
Very, very.
And one of my favorite videos of him, if you haven't yet seen it, perhaps you have, Suzanne, is one that I think is called Music as Life. And he talks about how we go through life heading somewhere important, as if we can just get to the next step, we'll have succeeded. And he takes you through, you know, what it's like to go to kindergarten, junior school, and how they tell you all the time, if you get this right and you do this, then you're going to get to big school, and then you're going to get to university, and then you're going to get to a job, and then you're going to get promoted and promoted. And then one day you get there. And then what?
Yes,
and he makes the important analogy. If you went to a concert and it was all about getting to the last cymbal crash, bang, why would you bother to listen to the music at all? The conductor could just say, hello, everybody, and then we could do that end
fine-tune. Bang. Yes.
Finish. It's about the journey. It's about dancing along the way and smelling the flowers. Alan Watts is playful.
Yes.
And he's always got humor going on in there. And when you can laugh at yourself, it really helps. I'm telling you. So, you know, what's your inner laughter? What does it sound like when you've done something silly and instead of beating yourself up, you can laugh and go, how great you noticed. But that laugh is when things change.
Because I just remembered yesterday I saw a funny scene with my cat and I laughed for about 10 minutes. I couldn't stop. It happens once in a while to me. It's a way for me to release probably energies and stuff. So I remember that, and just by thinking of it and hearing it in my mind, it indeed helps.
Wonderful.
But we were talking earlier, you mentioned Dr. Bandler, and I would like to talk a little bit more about him. Because in our previous conversation, you said something similar to this, that many people don't use his teachings the way it was meant. And you are a close friend of his, and you are one of his students. And I would like to know more about that. What do you mean? What is actually NLP as Bandler is teaching it, in your opinion?
Well, the best person really to answer that is him.
I love
and so, you know, if you haven't already done it, listen to some of his work on YouTube. He explains it best, but in a nutshell, it's about thinking on purpose and about aiming yourself in the right direction. But one of the things Richard said to me recently, and it really made an impression on me. He said, I wish more people would take the toolkit of NLP that I've taught them, and instead of going out there and becoming an NLP coach, go and take it into their field. And I know that one of the things that Richard loves is, you know, if you're an architect, go and make the field of architecture better. Don't give up architecture and become an NLP coach. Make architecture better. Make teaching better in schools. Make be a better doctor, a better anything. Take the tools and apply them to your field, because the toolkit that you get with NLP can be applied anywhere. It's a multi-purpose toolkit. I took Richard's teachings, and at the time when I first did my training, I'd already been voice coaching for 8 years, and my course was a 2-day course. And I would take it into organizations, and by the end of the course, people could have more impact when they were making presentations at work. But what I did with my NLP practitioner skills is I doubled what I could achieve, and I halved the time it took. So I did have to think about, what can I add now? Because now I can achieve the same thing in a shorter time. I need to double my prices. Let's start there.
Yeah.
But I also need a day too. I like doing a 2-day course. I get lots done. So I began to build. And what I learned from working with Richard was how to add more territory to my internal map. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that at the beginning. That is Richard's concept, not mine. But when you hear a clever idea, it's a really good idea to make it yours. Right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, one of the things is we all need to add territory to our map and expand and learn and grow what we can do and improve who we can be. You know, Richard was alive at the era that we called the human potential movement. Mm-hmm. And I still like that. I'm old. I like the idea that we have potential that we haven't tapped into yet. And in fact, just going back to that whole idea of unconscious incompetence, I carry that concept with me everywhere, asking myself the question in a fascinated, curious voice, what is there out here that I don't know that I don't know, but if I found out, would transform my world? And carrying that curiosity with me, there are, you know, no matter how much you think you know, there's always more. We only know what we know. And, you know, I love the idea of being a pioneer, of discovering things that are waiting to be discovered, but nobody has said yet. And I love the concept of taking the toolkit and finding out where I can apply it usefully. So whatever profession you're already in and whatever you want for yourself, once you know that there's stuff you don't know, but when you find out, it's going to transform what you can do, half the time that you can do it, double the effectiveness. You start to look in the right places. You start to look for the right people who are already exemplifying the state, the voice, the state of mind that you need in order to discover more of what you're capable of. What's the next step? And then if you put that together with Alan Watts that you just talked about, enjoying the journey, it's not only about enjoying getting to the goal. It's enjoying finding out as you go. So what do you think, Suzanne?
Well,
you might be able to find out from me as you're here with me.
yeah.
That would be so cool. And you see, that begins to make you into a good learner. And I can't remember what I said on the last interview, but I imagine that I mentioned being a good learner because it's so important. And it is the one thing I've said to my kids and my grandchildren. You know, aiming to be a good learner is one of the most generative aims you can have.
I totally agree with that. And what I've noticed in myself after all these years of practicing all kind of tools and, you know, culminating with NLP, which is the golden part, I can say that it became easier for me now to get over the fear of failure, because that's what stops learning. In a sense that if I do mistakes, I don't care. I can laugh at myself. And it's okay. I don't even think that it's a mistake. I'm thinking, oh, I did that. I can do that differently here. That's cool. Okay, we did that like that. The next time I'm going to do it like that. And there's no more of, oh my God, oh, look at that. What people are going to think about you, about that.
Can I tell you a little story about
Tell me
that?
a story.
My husband, bless him, he's no longer on the planet. He died 11 years ago, much to my sorrow. And he was a very wise and wonderful man, and he was very sparkly, and he had a brilliant sense of humor. He also had a little bit of an ego going on. And one day we were driving down the road, and did I tell you this story last time?
No.
Because it's an important story I tell a lot of people. It was a big learning for me. We're driving a route that I often drove, and he didn't. And he was driving. And as we're driving along, I said to him, get in the left-hand column because there's a right turn up ahead and we don't want to get stuck in the right turning traffic. And he got a little bit pompous, I'd say. And he went, don't tell me how to drive. I know what I'm doing. And I went, okay. And I shut up. And he stayed in the right-hand column and we got caught. And we had to wait for about 5 minutes before we could go forward. And he was so angry and upset with himself for having got it wrong that he sulked for a whole hour. And, you know, it was best we just didn't talk for an hour because he was unhappy. And I remember thinking at the time, ooh, there's a good learning. You know, sometimes you can learn from watching somebody get it not so good. And I thought to myself, I never want to screw myself up by being upset by mistakes. And I installed in my head, thinking on purpose, a little voice that went, ooh, you just learned something really cool. So that every time I make a mistake, instead of beating myself up, I now have a voice that goes, woo, learning opportunity. And I see, this is just my inner picture, but I see a kind of fist that goes, yes, and makes me feel like I have just succeeded rather than failed. You know, one of the things that has been done quite a lot with NLP is to study successful behavior. When you talk to people who have been very successful in their lives, in anything, they're successful parents, they're successful business people, they're rich, they're happy, whatever they are successful at, what you will hear is that they made a lot of mistakes on the way and learned from them. Mistakes are really great as long as you only make them once.
Or twice.
And what that involves is being a good learner. Now, there's also a strategy for when you've made a mistake more than once.
Mm-hmm.
So you could beat yourself up and go, oh, you're such an idiot. Why didn't you learn? Or you could laugh. That laugh you heard yourself with your cat and go, oh, okay, I was a little slower than I meant to be, but I've learned it now. That's generative. So even if you make the same mistake again, every time you laugh and remind yourself to do better next time, you will. It's as simple as that. And, you know, there's another wonderful quote from Richard that I carry with me everywhere. He said this to me. I think he said it from the stage too, but he said it to me personally. He said, you know, Laura, actually, I'm not going to imitate his voice. His voice is his voice. But he said, you know, Laura, if you compare yourself with other people, you're always going to find somebody doing better than you. He said the chances of you being the best in the world at one thing is small. It's possible. I hope you find it. The chances of you being best in the world at everything is pretty much zero. He said, but if you compare yourself with you yesterday and you're doing better today, you know you're going in the right direction. That's a really important concept.
It is.
Are you facing yourself in the right direction? Now, one of the other things I think that we can learn from NLP is that when we hear a cool thing like that, we can start to build on it and learn even more. And one of the things that I discovered after living with that quote for a while is that also applies to comparing myself with a perfect version of me.
Yes.
If I compare myself to my aim for who I want to become, I am going to be disappointed most of the time because I'm not there yet. And when I realized that, and I laughed at myself for having carried all that disappointment about not being the best ideal version of me and falling short, I could turn it around and go, wait a minute, that's a goal. And goals are cool things. But if you're going to beat yourself up because you're not there yet, that may not be helpful in getting closer and closer to the goal. The idea is that the closer you get to your goal, the better you feel.
Yeah.
And I learned that from Richard. And then when you get to that goal, you know what? Make a new one. Because what's important is that you're getting better and better and feeling better and better and being more and more effective every day. What do you need to set up in here so that you can do that? And having the right voice for the right motivation is part of the toolkit that you've got to do that.
Yeah, I totally
That,
agree.
by the way, for the NLPers amongst us, was an embedded command. Did you hear it? Good.
Yeah, I remember, well, now you kind of opened my ears and I hear things differently since our conversation. As you said, as I listen to others talking and to other people, to my daughter or to people I interview or with my friends, I can notice what they do. I can hear what they're saying. I can hear intonation in their voice, and I'm no expert, but I already started to see that. And I remember you mentioning the importance of having more accent on the voice training during the masterclass trainings, and I totally hear what you're saying. I totally agree with you. To me, it's a revelation, really, on how important it is. I was not paying attention. It's curious, isn't it, how your mind, once you give it the right type of information, it starts to direct itself. The unconscious itself is doing it, that brilliant part of you that starts picking up on things and starts being interested in certain type of things. So it does the selection for you, so you don't have to hear something else but the truth that is important to you.
That's lovely. And there's more. And there's more.
There's
always more.
Always more.
So, you know, what we did in our hour together is just the tip of the iceberg of what you can benefit from by using your voice and by paying attention and focusing on it so that you can learn about it. And what I'd really love, of course, is for every NLP trainer to bring me in to do a few hours with their students so that their students can open up their ears, hear more, and be more efficient and effective with their own internal voices as well as with their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. But you mentioned to me as well that we can bring our unique, most beautiful gift out in the world through the voice. How do we do that?
Well, it starts with wanting to and aiming yourself to it. I mean, that's a big question. How do you bring your gift to the world? You know, you said something earlier, which I think is important when we're talking about making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I told you the story about my husband. For me, one of the things that I've done a bit of work on, which has been helpful to me, is to park my ego.
Okay.
You know, we all need an ego. If we didn't have an ego, there'd be no personality, there'd be no me. So we need one, but egos can get in the way. It's your ego that's worried that it might be wounded if somebody looks at you and goes, "You're rubbish."
Yeah.
And if I allowed my ego to worry me in that way, I wouldn't be doing this interview. So one of the things that I think is important when you want to get your gift into the world, and everybody has some to share, is to get my ego out of the way. So there's going to be people who watch this and don't like it. And you know what? Then fine. It's not for them. If I get worried about the ones that are going to be critical of me, then it's going to stop me. I used to be part of a group, and when we met every 2 weeks, we would feast. Part of what we were doing was having fun with a delicious feast. And to begin with, we would all just bring whatever we wanted to bring to the feast. And then we started to discover that, you know, this person was really good at making the starter, and that person was really good at the main course. And ooh, he made the best salad dressing, and she made the best salad. Now, one of the things that I think is an interesting challenge for us all is to know what our talents are.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between a talent and a skill is that a talent is innate. It's something that's just there. When you talk to somebody about their talent, they often don't even know they've got it, because it's so straightforward, so easy, so natural. It's already kind of hardwired in.
They just do it.
They just do it. If you say to a talented tightrope walker, "Oh, could you teach me to tightrope walk?" They will probably say to you, "Oh, it's really easy. You just stick your arms out and walk along the line." You know, to them, it's easy. To me, a little bit more information. So one of the things I've discovered is everybody has a strong suit, a talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my friend Mike didn't know he made the best salad dressings. He just put what he thought was good in there. And it turned out that we all loved it. How do you find out what talent to bring to the feast? And the answer is feedback. And what do you love doing? What is your passion? Because most of us will find that the things we are naturally good at, we're naturally interested in. We like doing it. I would love a world in which we could all get our egos out of the way, find out what our talents are, bring them generously to the show, because then we'd have the most delicious feast.
Absolutely.
So what's your talents, Suzanne? Do you know?
Well, I think I have plenty.
Good.
Yeah. First of all, I'm a searcher of truth. So I've been always passionate for finding out more about mind and about myself and about God. So this is the area of passion. So I'm passionate about everything that explains that. This is where I get very good at exploring, learning, studying. I have the passion right away. Give me a book, I'll forget everything, all the pain in the world, and I'll just get excited about it and I'll go read it and study it. Or you give me a class with Dr. Bandler and I'll just forget about everything else. I'm also very good at preparing food. Like I like recipes and I like healthy food, and I just know, I know what is good. I know what is not good for myself. I just know my body. I love knowing the body, and I like connecting with people and not healing per se, but helping them reach that state of balance and the state of being connected with their own body.
I love it. And I've got one to add. You're a good interviewer.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I've been watching a lot of interviews recently, and one of the things that jumps out at me is how few good interviewers there are. When you ask me a question and I answer you, you don't just go, thank you, and go on to the next. You respond. So this interview feels like we're having a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
And that makes it easier for me. If you just go, thank you, here's the next question. It's like, what do I do with what I just heard? Can you help me out here and allow me to let what I've just heard land without cutting it and going to something completely different? So I think you're a talented interviewer.
Oh, thank you.
Now, well, you're welcome. Once you can identify a talent, then you can build skill in as well.
Yes.
Because all the talented people that I've met who do their talent for the world have also added skill. You know, a talented musician still goes and learns how to read music, still goes and practices playing with other people. My father's a very talented piano player, and he's very old now. He's 93, which is quite old, really. He still practices every day for 2 hours.
Incredible.
Right? So he still builds the skill as well as having the talent. And that is what makes somebody a master of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Or as I like to say, a masteress. Because I don't like the word mistress. It has connotations.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm a master. But I like to think I'm a masteress.
Masteress. I like it. And how do we build that? Then you say we identify the talent. Of course, we identify the skills that we like. And I know exactly what you mean, because I want to be able to sound like that. And I would like to be able to do the interviews this way. So the more I do it, the more I learn, and the more I identify the skills that I kind of would like to develop and add into my portfolio, if you want to call it that way. But then, yes, where is the voice coming into that?
Well, anytime you use a speaking voice, it comes into the way you're conveying yourself. Mm-hmm. And as Richard would say, the meaning of the communication is the feedback you get.
Oh, I love that.
You know, if I say something to you and it lands in you, you're going to do something with that and then give me some feedback in your response. If I am looking for a different kind of feedback, I can change how I say it. I can change the voice. I can change the words I use. You're going to respond differently. It always comes into it. The question, how does your voice come into it? It comes into it every time you speak to anyone.
Yeah. But is there a particular voice that I would need to develop for a particular skill? Let's say I identify I want to work on this and this and that. For instance, for me, I like you said, and I can't wait that you put that training on avoiding the and going with this fluidity through the words without having to stop or without having to be too monotonous, without making too many sounds that are not that pleasurable to the ear. So, see, I'm doing it again. So for these particular skills, for instance, is there any way I can work with the voice?
Well, first of all, you've got to know what voice you're aiming for, which is going to help you the most. And, you know, like I say, if you listen to people, you'll hear so many different, once you start filtering your attention,
yes,
to listen for the different voices and pay attention to how they make you feel, then you're going to discover what voice you need in order to help you the most. And if you're playful, as you talk to other people, you can try out different voices, monitor the responses you get. Now, here's an important thing. Voice is very subjective. Not everybody responds the same to the same voice.
True.
So, for example, not everybody will find Alan Watts' voice beautiful. Some people will. So sometimes changing your voice is applicable to that one situation, that one person. So there's got to be a bit of a feedback loop going on. I'm watching you as I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
And I'm trying things. And it's going on pretty unconsciously that as I monitor your response, I'm altering the way I'm hearing myself and outputting my voice till I get that. Saw you do it. Nod, nod, nod. Good. Success. Keep that one in the act.
I see. Super. Okay. It landed. Okay, Laura. So if we have time for one more question.
Sure.
There is a subject that you mentioned to me last time we met is being able to connect, or what we connect with. How do we have clarity on what we connect to and what we disconnect from?
Well, one of the things that I learned in my NLP training is that what you pay attention to matters.
Yes.
And what you're searching for in the world. Most people are going around the world expecting it to be a particular way. I think one of the interesting things about this pandemic was that it wasn't what people were expecting to happen. It was quite shocking. And it was what we call in NLP a big pattern interrupt. So you're going about your days and just going through them and expecting everything to be a particular way, and then suddenly, bang, everything changes. Now, the wonderful benefit of a pattern interrupt is it allows you to kind of come fresh, because all bets are off. What you were expecting isn't going to happen. Anybody who's interested in how we manifest our reality will know that the first rule of manifestation is to expect success. So that you kind of put the filters into your unconscious to look for the winning things. Because as soon as you start searching, or you could even call it stalking, for the better things, for what you want, you get a chance to find them. You know, one of the other things Richard Bandler says is, if you look for a problem, you'll always find one.
Find it. Yeah.
Right? So rather than looking for problems, what about looking for opportunities? It's a better filter. It's not that one is more true than another. And one day let's have a conversation about truth, which you love. And I love your intro to your videos, because you talk about meaningful. And to me, one of the things we're hardwired to create and search for is meaning. And I think we can sometimes interpret things in order to get that lovely feeling that we found meaning, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. There may be more. And I love the idea that there's always more to discover. And I'm never going to stop being an adventurer and a hunter and a stalker and a playful, curious person until there's no more time left and I'm on my way out, because there is always more. And so I guess I'd love to leave this interview with a good question.
Yes.
If you could find something today that could be a new opportunity for you to have more joy, more pleasure, more effectiveness, more exuberance, more bliss, more productivity, more good health, what is it that you want to filter for in order to find it? Because there are infinite possibilities, and they're right here, right now, once you put the right spectacles on so that you can discover them. What do you want to look for today that would make your life exponentially more wonderful? And I don't need you to answer. I just need you to live with the question, because it's a question that I ask myself every hour, every day. What is it that, if I look for it, would make my life explode into something so much more better that right now I can't even imagine it? Because it doesn't even matter whether I find that thing, because just holding that possibility gives me a sense of wonder, of respect for this marvelous, amazing planet. And that helps me to notice things that are going to feed that desire. If you're looking for a problem, you'll find one. If you're looking for joy, pleasure, good health, effectiveness, you'll find more of it. If you're looking for what you can do with your voice that could be completely life-changing, you might just find it. And you'll certainly notice opportunities, like you will notice when I put on this voice course that is coming soon, and you'll join it.
Of course I will. You're fantastic. Thank you so much, Laura. And I want to thank you all for watching, and to all NLP practitioners. And not only, you might want to visit Laura's website and check the classes she's offering with all this generosity and genius that she's offering to the world. And please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, if you have something to say, you want to have a conversation here with me and spread your message, clarify what's important to you, and introduce yourself to the world. This is a great opportunity as well. Contact me and let's talk. And I'll see you all very soon.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Bye.
Bye.